That's Nick.
And that's Joseph. And today we're here to talk about F1, the movie. The sixth film directed by Joseph Kosinski, which Warner Brothers is releasing June 27th, 2025.
I know this director did Top Gun Maverick.
Yes, reuniting with the same screenwriter, Ehren Kruger. We also reviewed his last feature, a Netflix release called Spiderhead.
Oh.
Started out with Tron Legacy, also did Oblivion with Tom Cruise and Morgan Freeman, and Only the Brave.
What is F1 about? Former Formula One star Sonny Hayes returns from retirement after a near-fatal 90s crash to mentor rookie Joshua Pearce on the struggling APXGP team. Facing generational rivalry and personal ghosts, Sonny races for redemption. What is your pull quote?
Brad Pitt has a fast car, but is it fast enough for him to fly away? It's a Tracy Chapman reference. Kosinski and scribe Kruger plunder a familiar formula of a grizzled sage's last hurrah while bonding with a resistant protege in F1. A full-tilt spectacle, sometimes fast enough to flatten out its crunchy bits.
Mine. Brad Pitt dazzles in this slick and exhilarating sports drama where character development takes a backseat to high-speed thrills.
Well, yes.
I did enjoy this movie.
I did too. I especially enjoyed Brad Pitt, and I think it's got a leg up on the Neil Blomkamp film Gran Turismo.
So the positives, Brad Pitt.
Yeah.
We saw this in IMAX.
It was filmed for IMAX.
I would say you probably have to watch it in IMAX.
I'd say it's the only way it would make sense to see it.
Yeah, I can't imagine watching this like on an airplane because it's so loud with a tiny screen. The story's pretty simple. So Javier Bardem owns this F1 racing team called, it's APXGP, but they keep calling it Apex. His character's name?
Ruben.
He's a very rich man, and he's also old buddies with Brad Pitt. They used to race Formula One back in the 90s. Javier Bardem's team, Apex, is like in the last place in this Formula One organization. And apparently, if he doesn't place in this season, like he only gets 3 seasons to place, and if he doesn't, the team could be taken away from him.
Very bad news bears.
And we're told in the hole, like hundreds of millions of dollars. So he goes to his buddy Brad Pitt and says, hey, I know you haven't raced F1 in 30 years, but I need you. I don't have the best driver. Someone left, and then the other guy's a rookie. Joshua Pearce, played by
Damson Idris.
Will you join? Brad Pitt goes to London to basically check out the scene. He joins the team to the chagrin of everyone, basically. And then the story's pretty predictable. It's like a struggle to the top. And of course, in the end, Brad Pitt places first, like for this team, at a final race in Abu Dhabi.
Yes.
The end. It's a long-ass movie. It's 2.5 hours.
It is. It clips along well enough.
It does. I think that the car racing scenes are kind of magical, because if you told me to go sit in a stadium and watch Formula One, I would decline. Like, there's no interest there. But watching it on the big screen, it was thrilling.
Well, I think greatly assisted by the score by Hans Zimmer.
Yes, for sure.
The sound design and the score in those moments are pretty electric.
I think Brad Pitt is electrifying on screen.
Yeah, he's got that old Hollywood charm, because he's starting to look like Lee Marvin to me. But his characterization, and again, this is a very familiar formula, it was giving me like the gamut of Paul Newman, like from The Hustler to Color of Money. And it's so strange to think that he's, I believe, a little bit older than Paul Newman was in The Color of Money. Yeah,
he looks fantastic. I think all of the supporting characters are fine for the most part. I just don't think these characters have much to do. They're all kind of caricatures, including Brad Pitt.
Sure.
Because his character is like this old fogey who's trying to come back into a young man's game. Although I didn't realize F1 is like a young man's game. It's not like they're running laps, and Brad Pitt is probably in better shape than everyone on the field. Then you have Joshua Pearce, who's like the young hothead. You have Javier Bardem as this rich guy who I think he's probably my least favorite character.
He's the weakest part, and I don't know that it's Javier Bardem's fault per se, because there's nothing you could do with this cookie cutter character, but he seems inordinately sleazy.
I was gonna say if you didn't, I mean, I could have also believed him to be a villain. Mm-hmm. He's not. I mean, he's a good guy. He's Brad Pitt's friend. He wants both of them to win. In the end, they do, and it's all great. But the way he's styled, the fact that he's keeping that hair black, he does look a little greasy.
Yeah, the hair makes him seem like he's got mafia connections almost.
Then we have the technical director, played by
Kerry Condon,
and
Kate.
Kate is, this technical director in a field that's predominantly male. So she's kind of a fish out of water. Her character's a little spunky, like clearly she's kind of had to fight, but then really she hasn't. She was plucked for this role. She didn't fight to get into F1. She was literally plucked, and she's there to help make the cars they're driving more efficient, faster, all that. But her character is very much like, I'm a woman in this male-dominated field, and I'm really focused on my work. But then, of course, enters a tryst with Brad Pitt.
Oh, yeah.
That is so... I guess it's cute because they're both cute. They end up having a one-night stand in Las Vegas. But then it doesn't end poorly. They just move on to Abu Dhabi. And then when Brad Pitt wins, he's like, okay, well, I did my job. I'm leaving. And she asks, will we... see each other again?
Well, he's like, we'll see each other down the road.
Down the road.
And I'm going to ease on down it.
And then he's like, so I'll catch you later. And that's the end of that. And
then it's also funny, there's another character that's quite prominent, but it really has nothing to do. The technical captain of the crew, Kim Bodnia, who is, of course, in Nicholas Winding Refn's Pusher films. Kaspar.
And he's like the lead, of the team who's he's supposed to be telling everyone what to do, but we'll get into it. But obviously Brad Pitt is doing what he wants to do. That's why they succeed. But yeah, his character doesn't have anything to do with be sort of the old head who wants everything done a certain way. A lot of caricatures and very broad strokes. So anything outside of the actual racing felt very basic to me.
It did, and there's some life that's breathed into it though, because I really like Bernadette, who's playing Damson, Idris's mom, played by Sarah Niles. I thought she had some nice chemistry with Brad Pitt.
Well, and also her son.
And her son. She's set to have a very big year. She's in I May Destroy You and Ted Lasso, but she's in the new Fantastic Four film, Heads of State, and this film.
Yeah, she's really cute in this movie because it's in the trailer, I believe, but Joshua Pearce is telling his mom, they hired this new driver. He's this really old man. Old? How old? I don't know, 80. So she's like, okay, well, just focus on yourself and do the best you can. So she goes to the Apex offices, and there's a huge mural, a digital mural of Joshua Pearce with Brad Pitt. And the mom is like, that's the old man? Basically, she's hot under the collar. That man is fine as hell.
She's like, he's not that old.
Yeah. And then every time she sees him, she's kind of... It's very cute that she's not flirting with him, but it's very clear that she finds him appealing. And then at one point, Joshua Pearce is making fun of Brad Pitt's image and calls him Chuck Norris.
Oh.
Which I thought was kind of funny because this man does not look like Chuck Norris.
Chuck Norris, even in his heyday, could not hold a candle to Brad Pitt.
No. Okay, I'm just going to go through the few notes I have because the story is very basic. When we first see Javier Bardem approaches Brad Pitt at a laundromat, and he seems real sleazy because he pulls up in this very nice Mercedes wearing this kind of ugly suit. And
isn't it brown on black?
Yeah, it's a deep burgundy color, flat burgundy with a black shirt underneath and this matte black car, and he pulls up and
it says, "I'm a hustler, baby." That's what that says.
And then he asks Brad Pitt, "Can I use your cell phone? Mine's not working." And Brad looks at him and says no. But immediately you recognize that they know each other in a friendly way. I didn't think they had... They might be friends in real life, these two actors, but on screen, they just do not...
Friend chemistry.
I think that Javier Bardem as an aesthetic makes sense because you probably want to pair Brad Pitt with another attractive older gentleman, mature gentleman. So Javier Bardem checks that box. But I don't know, something about his line delivery and just their chemistry felt really off to me.
Well, he disappears for long swaths of time as well. And it's don't you have a lot on the line, man?
Yeah, he says, I'm in the whole 350 million. He's also aware that he could lose his team. Then there's a side character who's like the villain.
Banning, played by Tobias Menzies, who's a creep through and through.
I feel like we could have focused more on him and less on Javier Bardem because he's part of the board for Apex, but he's like a shark circling the inevitable, which is that everyone thinks Apex is going to fail, especially when Brad Pitt joins, because I think it's Kate who says, like, it reminded me of Got to Be Real when they're like, oh, she's making a comeback. And it's like, don't you have to have been somewhere to come back? Well, that's how she's talking about Brad Pitt. Like, people are talking about you like, you're not a has-been, you are never was.
But they're acting like they scraped him out of the bottom of the barrel. We meet him winning Daytona.
Okay, that's my other thought. As someone who doesn't know, this field of the sports world, yeah, we meet Brad Pitt winning like a major race. And then we see that his thing is back in 93 or 95 when he was racing F1 with Javier Bardem. He got into a really bad accident and was injured in some way. We don't learn till the very end what the injuries consisted of, but many times throughout the film, you get to see Brad Pitt without his shirt on, taking ice baths, and you see he has a huge incision on his spine. So clearly he had like back surgery.
Who's that drag queen with the metal spine that we got to hear about all the time?
Jasmine...
Yeah.
Jules Sparkles with her bionic spine. But yeah, so we know that he got into a bad accident and then he didn't want to do F1 anymore. But then for some reason, for the past 30 years, has been racing every other kind of car.
And living out of his van, much like Once Upon a Time in Hollywood.
So I found it curious, like why, like he still kept racing. So did he just not want to be part of a team? He doesn't read like someone who's can't work with others.
No, but he's got a lone wolf quality as well,
But he's also very polite and obviously very appealing. Like everyone who meets him after they get over the fact that he's taking over, everyone likes him. There are many scenes with him. He likes to run the tracks he's racing. And then progressively throughout this 2.5-hour film, we see that members of his team run with him and the group gets larger and larger. So it seems... Again, the character development is not there for me. Like, I pictured this character as being someone who's very likable, who wants the team to win. The other thing I didn't mention is the character Brad Pitt is playing is not trying to win for himself. He is all about the team. From the very first race, he's trying to get Joshua Pearce to place.
Trying to uplift him. Emil Durkheim would probably say Brad Pitt is the glue that holds this microcosm together.
Yeah. So then it seems like that doesn't quite match him quitting F1, but then racing. Like we see he wants to do like the Baja 5000, which he does at the end. And then, like you said, does whatever that was, Daytona. So I found that very curious.
But if you haven't seen Top Gun Maverick, the chemistry, I would argue, between Tom Cruise and Jennifer Connelly is very similar to what's going on with Brad Pitt and Ms. Condon here. And I do love the spunky Ms. Condon, who you know from The Banshees of Inisherin.
Yeah, I do like her.
And she's got a really nice, appealing energy for, again, what, on closer examination would call a cardboard character.
We're told Brad Pitt, Kate tells Brad, like, Javier told me about you, that you have hoes in different area codes and to not touch you with a 10-foot pole.
More divorces than Liz Taylor, apparently.
Yeah, they make him seem like an awful womanizer. But so the fact that they end up hooking up and he's really nice about it, I don't know, Brad Pitt doesn't give that energy in this film.
Not really, yeah, that's strange. And then he's being hounded by a member of the press, this man in a hat. That looks very much like a man we see at a lot of press screenings.
Oh, I thought that too.
And but again, he's unappealing in a similar way. So I guess that character was spot on. But he annoyed me.
Well, I want to get back to that character, but I also didn't quite while I really liked Kate, I didn't see Brad Pitt's character liking Kate in a sexual way. Because the reason he even tries to push up on her initially is not because he finds her attractive. It's because he's trying to convince her to make changes to the car she developed. So the fact that they end up hooking up and it seems like he was cool with it, just, I don't know, none of that made sense.
Hey girl, check out my aerodynamic design. Could you retrofit this?
Okay, the first time I think we get to see Brad Pitt shine in this role is he does a press conference once he's he is accepted as the second driver for Apex. And then we get this asshole journalist. That was written, I would say it was written poorly, but I've been to Q&As where journalists get up and ask really awkward questions that are...
So, you're trying to come for me. Okay.
But I thought Brad Pitt, the actor, got to really shine in those. He gets to shine when he has to keep his cool. Because he is so cool. So I thought the press conference was the first time in the film where it's like, oh, this is like the perfect role for him. Like this too cool for school, but like smooth guy who's not a jerk. That's where I think he really shines.
He's, and he's also might describe himself as a failure because he didn't ever achieve his ultimate dream. And I think that's where the final half hour is emotionally compelling because even though it's predictable, it sells it to us in a way that's, I don't know.
I agree. I shed a couple tears. And I think it calls back to when Javier first approaches Brad Pitt. He tells him, like, if we can win in F1, winning will be like you're the best. Like for that moment, you are the best in this thing. And so in the end, when they finally do win, he says, now we can say we're the best.
This miracle that they need. But the line Brad Pitt has, Sonny Hayes, as we're told over and over again, is like, he says, we can win if we don't try too hard. Like, if you aren't so desperate that this win is going to define you, you might be actually to, enjoy the moment and perform at your best. And that's where I think that the final moment where you could arguably say it's corny, but he tells Kerry Condon, how I feel when I'm really in my zone is that like I'm flying, like I'm almost weightless. And she has this kind of gasp at the end, like as Sonny finishes the final lap and she goes, oh, he's flying. And I really like how the sound and production design kind of mirror that for us.
Yeah. So I also like that his character, he's really about supporting his teammate. Because, there are two, I didn't know this until I saw the movie, but apparently these races, there are two drivers from each team. And Brad Pitt's entire approach is to set up his teammate to excel. And we first see that in the first race they're in together, where Brad Pitt's playing these games that I thought are the best written parts of the story. And maybe to people who watch Formula One racing, it's very obvious, but I didn't know this. There are all these rules about like tires and red cards and safety laps and all that.
And blue flags.
All of that Brad Pitt's character is playing to his advantage to get the team to go up in ranking. I found all of that very appealing.
It's doing something with, if you're ignorant about it at all and you're watching it, it's just cars racing, but it does delve into the fact that there are maneuvers and game plans and a lot going on behind the scenes.
So initially, when it's clear that Brad Pitt's trying to support Joshua Pearce, it seems like Joshua's happy because now he never even placed before, so now he's doing well. But then, of course, there has to be some sort of conflict. It takes a turn because Joshua Pearce gets into a bad, fiery accident. And then we also learned that back in 93, when Sonny Hayes, Brad Pitt's character, was injured, there was no one readily available to assist him. So his character was on the track, like mangled, just there, and the cameras were just pointing at him, and no one was helping him. But when Joshua Pearce gets into the accident, Brad Pitt immediately stops, jumps into the fire, pulls him out. But then now Joshua Pearce can't race because his hands have been burned.
Just a couple weeks.
But in that couple-week period, Brad Pitt becomes a star. Like he's going up in the rankings, and people are showing up to the races with big cutouts of his face. And of course, Joshua Pearce doesn't like that. So then when he's finally able to come back and race, he sabotages their first race.
And Bernadette has kind of turned on Sonny because she blames Brad. It's his game plan that she believes messes up her son, but it's actually because Damson Idris didn't listen to what Brad Pitt recommended.
I was a little confused because we're told that the team not placing is putting it in jeopardy. Like the organization F1 could take it away from Javier Bardem. So at the point when Joshua Pearce comes back and like kind of sabotages the race, they act like everything's over, but they have been on such a rapid incline that it just seemed unbelievable that this one mishap is going to now...
Well, it does seem like every little thing could possibly go wrong. Which I guess is a testament to the film kind of keeping you in a state of kind of semi-anxiety. But Doesn't it seem like there's like so many things? It's like, oh my God, I can't believe that they're even going to the next race because it seems like they can't function.
Well, especially the cars being wrecked, and it's like, okay, you have unlimited resources, I guess. I thought a really cute scene is they're in Vegas, and Kate plays a trick on Brad Pitt's character and Joshua Pearce to get them to come to like a bar so they can work out their differences. They think they're going to like a teen party, but really it's just the three of them. And she's like, we're going to play Texas Hold'em and we're going to work through our issues. And the winner of the game gets to choose who's the lead. So they start playing, and that's when they realize that like they both have respect for each other, and they both have the same goal, which is to make Apex a winner. So they are able to work through their differences. I will say though, some of the dialogue is pretty basic.
Yes,
Like,
that's true.
I feel like a lot of the energy went to the cinematography and like the racing, but then these side stories don't get much love. Also, Brad Pitt's character is very superstitious. That's probably his biggest character trait.
Well, it opens with kind of a significant ritual that he goes
Like
through.
he always has to put on his clothes a certain way. He wears mixed match socks. He always has to take off his watch and put it on his wallet that's placed a certain way.
There's a stack of like peanut butter sandwiches. He does
That he takes one
pull-ups.
bite from. Yeah, and then one thing that's very important apparently is that he has a deck of cards and he'll pull a card at random and put it in his pocket. But he doesn't know what the card is. He just puts it there. But there's one race where he forgets. And then he loses it. That felt crazy.
Yes. But, you know, we all do get stuck in our routine sometimes.
And then at the very end, when he places number one in Abu Dhabi, when he gets into his sprinter to go to Mexico, he pulls out the card and looks at it, which I think symbolized that he was done chasing the impossible, which was to be the best of the best.
Well, also the card snafu moment. Javier Bardem, they're like, Sonny's not responding. What's wrong? And Javier Bardem goes, he's driving angry.
Yeah. My final note is Brad Pitt gets injured during that race where he's angry. And so he's in the hospital. And that's when we get a scene where Brad Pitt's in the hospital and Javier Bardem comes in. And he's holding his clipboard, which I don't know, like, do they still do that where they have paper medical records just hanging on a clipboard? But Javier Bardem is reading it. And then we realize that those are Brad Pitt's medical records from 30 years ago that are on his bed in 2025. And that's when we learned that he had like severe damage to like his cervical spine and had all this stuff done, and that he has like some sort of condition where he could lose his vision if he keeps getting into accidents. And so he never should have been racing.
It also never really seems like a threat.
No, it never seems like a threat until the very last race when we see that Brad Pitt's vision's going. But also, I thought it was weird that Javier Bardem, like, you guys were such good buddies that you came to find him 30 years later to race for you. We get no context to whether or not they actually stayed in contact over the years. But it's like, you knew that your friend got into a horrible accident that stopped him from racing. You never thought to find out what happened to him? Or because then in the hospital, he goes, you should have told me you're fired because I can't let you race like this. Okay.
Yes, and then there's some last minute thing where he's like, I went to get this Mexican legal document that says that
absolves you of any liability.
Liable. It's like, okay.
But I'm also frustrated with the whole medical record thing because we get a full scene with Joshua Pearce doing like Rocky IV with what's his name, Dolph Lundgren doing the running. We get that full thing with Joshua Pearce.
He's not man, he's machine.
They draw his blood. They do all these tests because a lot is on the line, right? But then you let Brad Pitt join, and you never even did had anyone done a full H&P, you would have seen that he has severe back issues. So I don't know how that was possible, that they didn't find that out until it was too late.
And he's not even a pill popper, you know, there's some
Well, he is very, you know, they do make it a point to explain why Brad Pitt looks the way he looks, because he's very fit. But yeah, overall, I did enjoy this experience. I do think if you are interested, you probably have to watch it in IMAX.
Sure. I hate that they made the title F1 the movie. Just call it Formula One then. Like, F1 the movie.
What else would you like to say?
Room, bitches.
What would you give F1 the movie?
3.
I do think it's very good. I would give it 3.5 out of 5. Join us on Patreon and listen to our podcast. Bye.